All right. Good morning, folks. This is the third time starting this video. I'm trying to get this map situated here. I'm going to have to make it a little bit smaller, I guess, because I can't control it that well. Hopefully, y'all can see this okay. Frontal boundary draped across the southeast here. And by the way, today's Tuesday, the 26th of 2025. Happy Tuesday. Cooler weather moving into the east here. Eastern part of the U.S. with a lot of heavy rain, unfortunately, out west. And this pattern looks like it's continue with the surface boundary into the south here. This is 8 a.m. Tuesday, 8 a.m. Wednesday. Front's valid 8 p.m. Eastern time, Tuesday, August 26th. You see where a boundary is setting up along the near the Front Range here, Intermountain West, and along the Gulf Coast. Excessive rainfall, heavy rain, flash flooding possible, thunderstorms in the general area along Florida and up in the Northeast still. Moving forward in time, one more day. We see the heavy rain still situated up here out west and along the Gulf Coast here. Not really the Gulf Coast, but back into Texas, and monsoon moisture just incessant here with this high pressure situated here and flow around it. I can draw like that. And we have our cooler air moving in here. Unfortunately for Florida, it's going to remain unsettled as a boundary kind of hangs out in this area. All right, so moving on here, we have the water vapor at the mid levels here. See boundary into Florida here, and another boundary set up just north of in the Tennessee Valley here. However, dry air, the lower levels is prevalent for a good portion here in the eastern U.S. This just looks like high clouds. Can't really see it there. Anyway, see there. This gives you a better idea of the air mass. Some moisture still hanging around here in the southeast, but really dry to the north of this other boundary that's set up here. And going back to the mid-level water vapor, you see what I'm talking about with the moisture push here, up and around high pressure, and deep, low up here, with short waves moving through the flow. Flow like this, up and around this way. And then you have more of a stationary boundary here. This pattern going to continue. And eventually a boundary is going to set up in this area here, which is going to be bring the chance for heavy rainfall towards the end of the period in this area. So, going back to the, when we look at the IR loop here, infrared, not a lot of higher, colder cloud tops, but just overall, a lot of moisture here, which is pretty unusual for this time of year. And I'll go over the moisture in the atmosphere in another part of this video, but you know, this is quite an unusual pattern. Like I said, I haven't seen this since I've been doing the weather. I don't remember seeing this kind of pattern very often. I think a lot of it's to do with the nature of this low out here on the East Coast, how deep it is, and in response, you have a high pressure building out west here. So we'll talk about that next in the actual moisture content in the atmosphere out here and how high it is. All right, so this is a nice graphic that shows the anomalous moisture in the atmosphere. European model for the continental U.S. You can see the moisture, the higher moisture levels, and the potential above normal um, precip overall moisture in the atmosphere. So the higher the P-Watt anomaly, the higher difference between normal it is. So you can see the deep greens here out west here and down into the southern tier United States, except for like Texas, where that flow is going back this way. If you recall, dry air with that trough, you see the moisture starting to sneak back in this way. You go over time here. How deep the moisture is out here out west. And this starts to fill in here in Texas and move northward. And this moisture looks like a Juliet out here, hangs around and then moves to the south here. You can see more dry air moving down this way, drying out in the desert southwest a little bit further in the period. And then dry air pushing still in the east here. No, looks like another front towards the end of the period moving south. You can see the moisture content out in the west is raining pretty high, really, and really dry air settled down into the deep south later in the period. Again, setting up possibility for more excessive rainfall, and maybe towards the end of the period, we have a lot of moisture here in a good part of the U.S., except for the desert southwest here, and some different areas in the east. But at the start of the period, you can see what I'm talking about. Excessively dry, really dry air, deep dark browns in the east. Persistent troughing in the east remains with brief interruptions of higher levels of moisture. Towards the end, fills back in for the most part of the U.S., except for a few areas here. This is what I'm talking about with the mid-level flow pattern here and the excessive rainfall. You can see high pressure will flow around it with the mid-levels. And when you look at the lower levels here, this is the 500 millibar flow going. That's about right now. You go to the low levels, kind of chaotic flow here, really. See from the north and from the south here and to the east. When you get out west, it's really hard to look at that because of the mountains and stuff. But and stuff. Sorry about that. Keep saying that. But going back to the mid-level flow, you see this deep trough over the eastern U.S. keeps wanting to maintain itself, really. And we have different short waves moving through the flow. The high out west kind of flattens some, and the European model here wants to develop this almost closed low off the northeast coast here. And finally, the trough in the east lifts out, although the troughiness remains here. And as we go through further in the end of the period, even larger high pressure builds in here. Wow. This is very deep, strong, low pressure. I want to see what the GFS model thinks about this. Compare it. Not quite as deep. Wants to make it more of a closed low here, moving through the flow. You can see over time becomes more zonal, and then a trough maybe digging across the western U.S. Overall, I would tend to side with European more as far as what the long range, but in the short term, going back with the European, we'll look at it again just to review. This is where we are right now, more or less. As the flow becomes, let's look at the low levels again. What happens to low level flow? We start getting some low level flow, maybe out of the south here, which could bring some more moisture. I don't know. We'll just have to see, but you get the idea here. Troughiness remaining over the east for quite a long period. As far as a excessive rainfall outlook related to this flow pattern in the short term, you have you see where the slight risk areas are here. A good portion of the Mountain West moving into North Texas, good part of Oklahoma, moving into day two. See, it's generally the same areas, maybe a little bit further north here. Different boundaries set up, and just the pattern is very stagnant in this area. Shifting further east up to day three. And if we move further out in time, we can look at the WPC outlook. Day four, you can see day four, good portion of the south and the southeast up into the upper Midwest is a different look at it. The static image here, going back. And so, and day five, which is Saturday through Sunday, static image here. All along the Gulf Coast, up into the Panhandle of Texas, up into the High Plains and the Midwest, and the Northern High Plains. So this area here is really going to be getting a lot of rainfall in the next several days. So get your galoshes out. So this is the expected rainfall amounts modeled heading today at 8 p.m. You can see where the brighter colors are here, where the most precip is expected. Move at the time. This is ending August 27th. If it'll come up, it's not there. Nice. Anyway, move out to day three, ending Tuesday, August 28th, 8 p.m. See your bullseye out here in gosh, my states. I just got to learn my states better. Anyway, you can see here the most precipits expected in the Midwest. Ending Saturday. This is cumulative amount, so we're talking. You see how it's shifting to the southeast here, where this boundary is, and then becoming even more towards the southeast here and filling in different areas. But if we go through time here, we don't have the 48 hours, 72-hour. So that moves to the south here, and then northern Texas towards the end. But likely remaining quite dry in the northeast. But all along here, it's going to get pretty unsettled for a good period here, good period of time. As far as current hazards go, we have flood watches in these areas, the same areas where we talked about possible flooding. A winter weather advisory. I wonder where that is. I don't see it in the map here, but it's showing up as interesting. I don't know what that is. Yeah, red flag warnings and heat advisories up here in the northern tier. Um, and you have a flood warning down here in Southern California. Dust has been a big issue, and dust storms in desert Southwest with these storms that are flaring up every day. So be advised for that. I'm not certain where the wind advisory is either on this map, but it's showing here. Anyway, not a lot of current hazards, but the biggest thing is the flood and the heat right now. What's the future temperature outlook? Day 6 to 10. This is issued yesterday. It's the greatest chance of below normal temps here. Sorry, Florida. And the northern tier, of course, we know about. And then if we look at day 8 through 14, still forecast to be likely below normal in on the blue area. Dark blue is more likely. Southern tier in the northwest and back into the desert a little bit, warming up, and actually above normal up here in the northeast. And this is probably mostly driven by cloud cover here for the southern portion, keeping the temperatures down over time. When we look at the precip for day 6 through 10, good portion of the country above normal precip chances. This is the 31st to the 4th. And even almost the whole country has a good chance of being above normal precip, which is interesting to see. We'll see if that happens or not. But all right, so far as temps, future temps, dew points, and cloud cover, you can see this is more or less the current H26 OHZ, so close to now 4 a.m. See where the lighter colors are? That's where the coolest temps are. Of course, we're only up during the day, each day, but I mean, not terribly hot. And then maybe the northwest here, desert southwest getting kind of hot, but still only in the 90s. Overnight in the 60s, getting down nice and cool here, especially in the northeast. Um, Sorry, Florida and Texas, but in the mountains here, getting up in the low 50s, 49 up here by the Great Lakes, warming up to the 80s. Texas starts to get hot again. Not too bad. Desert Southwest starts to heat up. You can see the later colors really fill in each night, although it starts to warm up at night for the southeast a little bit and the south because of cloud cover, most likely. But overall, no deeper like brownish like 90s even, foreseeable future here for the southeast especially. But if you look at dew points, this reflects the amount of moisture in the atmosphere. Lower the dew points, the chances are it's going to feel nicer to you out there. So, see what I'm talking about here. Out here in the west, dew points are higher due to higher moisture and rainfall at night. See dew points really push back up into the 70s, 60s, way up into the northern tier of our Midwest. Moisture maybe is wanting to sneak back into the south eventually. And we talked about that rainfall chances increasing here. So it won't be as quite as dry and cool out here, but still, I'll take dew points in the 60s. Um, with temperatures in the 80s, it's still, you know, unfortunately, the way it is in the south, we don't get to keep dry air forever, but the northeast, especially, is going to stay dry for quite a while. I'm just cool. I mean, dew points staying in the 50s, especially up here in the north and in the mountain west, of course. Can be dry, really dry, bone dry. So, during the period, it seems like moisture is increasing again for a good portion of the splitting the nation in half from north to south here. So, cloud cover, we look at that too here with this model. You see the greatest cloud cover is in blues, moving through the flow here. So the cloud cover picks up in a couple days here in the south and is shunted to the south again up in northwest here. And like I said, the cooler temps are not necessarily always driven by just dry air. Could be a lot of cloud cover during the day, which holds temps down. As far as temperatures below normal temps here, this just gives a good idea of the anomaly. Um, so the deeper, darker colors, like the purples, 20, 20 degrees below normal. This is lucky because of the moisture, ongoing rainfall going on right now. You could see a good portion of the U.S. is below normal temps. Although in Texas it's about a little bit above normal. It stays that way. But up here in the northern tier into Canada and along the west coast into Texas, you see the numbers corresponding to anomalies here. So if you look at the map as a whole, Canada is going to be quite hot for a long period here, and most of the U.S. is going to be at normal or above normal, except towards the end here, we start to heat the bill back in the northwest, which we don't need. 20 degrees, 26 degrees above normal. It's starting to get a little bit warmer along the East Coast and the upper Midwest, but overall, not extreme for a lot of the continental U.S., except maybe towards the end of the period where we get cooler than normal in the Mountain West and hotter temps maybe building back in the upper Midwest.